So calling the meeting to order, I'll start by acknowledging. We begin today by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is traditional territory of the Willis-Stockwood. These territories are covered by treaties of peace and friendship of the Willis-Stockwood people, first signed with the British Crown in 1725. Has attendance been taken?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
I'll motion to approve the next community motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes, motion carried. Are there any conflicts of interest to disclose as per the agenda today? No conflicts being declared, we shall move on to consideration of the 2025 budget. And I will just say, as we're moving through this tonight, I'm going to be on the first motion and the amendment motions. We're going to move quite quickly because this is administrative. This is not discussion items. The following procedure, which I'm hoping Don, who is better at procedure than I, will talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this evening, you have a number of questions before you. And we'll begin with a motion being put by Director Corey, the Chair of the Finance Committee, to reflect passing the budget that was distributed 45 days ago. There are a number of amendments that will then be offered to that motion. And we will deal with them in the order that they were received, the same way that if they happen live at the table. The motions to amend need to be seconded like any other motion and are subject to debate. Because they are amendments to the budget, our bylaw requires them to have a 2/3 majority of the members who are seated at the table who represent at least 50% of the population. If they carry, the motion that Director Corey puts first is changed. If they are defeated, we move on to the next one. And we move on to the next one in any event. At the end of this process, we will be left with a budget motion for 2025 that then you will then debate and authorize or defeat. So that's the process that's before us this evening. The first motion, then the amendments, and the amendments, when you deal with the amendment, that doesn't mean that you're passing the budget as a result. You're just changing the question that you're going to debate later on.
Any questions on the procedures? Now's a good time to have it because we're going to go through these procedures quite quickly. No questions. We'll move to the first motion.
I move the board approve the total operating budget for the Capital Region Service Commission for the 2025 calendar year, consisting of total revenue of $21,173,934 and total expenditures of $21,173,934, and that the capital budget consists of total expenditure of $654,000 as detailed in the budget information circulated previously and presented to the board September 5th, 2024, and subsequently forwarded to the member communities that are the municipalities or rural communities and to the minister in accordance with Section 28 of the Regional Service Delivery Act on September 9th, 2024.
Second. Is there a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you. Questions?
I have one question, if I can just a typo. Are we not all municipalities except the rural district?
I believe the rural district is still considered a municipality.
I don't believe so.
No, it's, Mr. Chair, it's not. Rural communities would entail the constituent parts of the rural district that Director Forsyth represents.
So I'm wondering if we should read municipalities or rural district in the ministry.
Oh, the word community. Yeah.
No, we'll just.
Yeah, remove community and replace the word.
But we're still municipalities, all of them.
Okay, they're all local governments, but not all municipalities.
If I might, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
to change that, someone would have to recommend a motion to that point. And the window for amendments to the budget motion closed on October 24th. So we can't change that wording. And I believe if we check with Mary Kay, we'll find that's the wording that's been provided to us by ELG.
So the wording's been, approved by ELG, which make sure we're representing the right legal definitions that we're elected for. Any further questions?
So now we're considering the amendments,
Amendments,
correct?
right?
Yes.
In the event that the amendments are offered, and the first opportunity to offer an amendment would go to Director Fox if he wishes.
Director Fox?
Yeah, I'd like to move that, to amend the motion by replacing the revenue and expenditure figures of $21,173,934 with revenue and expenditures figures of $21,073,690.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second it. Judy Wilson Chi.
Any questions? Should we go around?
So at this point, if the motion is, you should call the question.
Questions can call? And should we go around the table to take votes?
I believe Mayor Kay will call the roll.
Director Falconer,
For.
Director Nixon,
For.
Director Morrison,
Nay.
Director Corey,
Or.
Director Fox,
Or,
Director Sweeney, Director Wilson Chi,
Yes, for.
Director Hayward,
Yes.
Director Maury,
Yes.
Director Morrison. Oh, sorry. You got me every time. Director Rogers,
No, no.
Director Duplessis,
Nay,
Director Forsythe,
Yes.
Director Kleeba,
Nay.
Director Powell.
no.
Motion is defeated. Thank you. Moving to, if there's a call for a second amending motion.
The next in line that has been, where we've received prior written notice would be Director Rogers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Did you want to read it?
Oh, certainly.
Thank you.
Be it resolved that the board allocates regional services support fund RSSF funding to be to mandated services that apply to all member local governments. And that $156,500 in grants from RSSF be reallocated from local planning services to economic development.
Is there a seconder?
Powell, Armando.
Thank you. Questions?
I guess I should speak to it.
Is there any, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Is there any chance to divide that motion up, or is this cut and
No,
dry
it says as submitted
as stands?
for the time.
Okay.
Well, this is just flatly on the motions.
It is on the motion.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's just on the motion. I was just going to specify, when that was submitted, it was prior to understanding how it is that the RSSF was allotted, and I know that we had that discussion last week. And after that became clearer, you might have noticed my lack of excitement in moving this motion, because even I recognize that it's not the best way to approach this. As mentioned, we had concern that RSSF was benefiting only 30% of the membership. I still have that same concern, and I would have liked to I would have thought there was another way to have allotted it. But staff, I think did a great job of explaining how by making this change, it was actually going to cost the organization more, and I would never want that. So I too, even though it's our motion, I'll be voting against it. So if anyone's wondering, that is why, is because once it was explained further, I appreciated it wasn't the best route.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I would observe that there's no requirement to follow through on a motion that you've offered if you have subsequently reflected on it and think that it is not such a great idea. An option available, rather than to call the vote on this, would be, with the seconder's permission, Director Rogers could withdraw this proposed amendment, and that would seem to be tidier than calling the vote on everything.
I'm happy to withdraw it. Oh, sorry, Chair.
Yes.
I mean to speak without your.
So, Director Powell, you seconded. Are you happy to have it withdrawn?
I definitely want to withdraw.
Yes,
With that,
perfect.
amending motion is withdrawn. And we're now moving to the third. Director Rogers.
So, all right, I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that no new positions be added to the Capital Region Service Commission budget for 2025, and be it further resolved that the corporate services budget be reduced by 80,000 and the community development services budget be reduced by 90,000. But I would like to make an amendment to that, as I had specified in my email, but I need a seconder probably.
But first, to make this easier, I'm going to rule that as out of order.
Which one?
This motion, because it's contrary, the first part of it, the no new positions. So striking. Where am I here? No new positions be added to the Capital Regional Service Commission budget for 2025. That portion is out of order, because it's contrary to section 16 of the Act.
So, Mr. Chair, how would you like me to proceed? I guess I'm confused.
So if there's no appeal of my ruling on that, that would, so I'm essentially ruling only part of that amendment out of order, and the remaining part of the motion, the amending motion, can be considered. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
So-
At this point, for the motion to be considered further, it would require a seconder.
So, and if I want to, so that means striking after the be it resolved that. So no new positions be added to the Capital Region Service Commission budget for 2025. And be it further resolved that, take that out because it reads more appropriately. And it would start with the corporate services budget be reduced by 80,000 and the community development services budget be reduced by 90,000. That becomes the remaining motion, the first part being out of order. Would you?
I'm fine with that, because as everyone would know, that is exactly what that was the intention anyways. So isn't that's convenient? So that was my intention. So I'm happy to put forward that motion if we can have a seconder.
Perfect.
Yes.
Is there a seconder?
Bob Powell or Lefko?
No? Any questions? No questions?
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chair, just, how will that affect, like, the corporate services budget being reduced and the community development service budget being reduced?
Well, fortunately, I have someone with very good experience with
Yes.
numbers sitting inside.
Right?
Okay,
Mr. Chair. So essentially, it will reduce, the corporate services will eliminate that position, governance officer, and then we'll have to slightly reduce our professional services. So that will bring us to the 80,000. For the 90,000 we talked about at last Thursday's meeting, it would leave 25,000 remaining to deal with the social file, homelessness and all of that. So it will be much less. that would be the impact of the 80,000 and the 90,000.
Thank you. And the last question, if we agree to this, the reduction, is there, chance that we can run a deficit?
I'm much more comfortable with the second part of the motion. If we had to eliminate all positions and then further reduce 80 and 90,000, most definitely I would expect a deficit. We have ability in our budget to deal with an 80,000 reduction and a 90,000.
Thank you.
Yeah, in the community development portion of this, by reducing it down to $25,000, does that hamstring the community portion of our portion? I mean, is this, like a turf thing? I'll use it as turf between city of Ferguson that has their group and our group that has that. Could they work together so that, yeah, myself personally, I think, is the dollars and cents we need to get is from the government. So if we're working together in the right, everybody working together as a group to get that money, I think it'd be a little bit more advantageous. So I think that that whole aspect of reducing leaves 20, well, you're not gonna give a person that could actually work on that committee. You see, I think you have one person in the community group. I think I could be wrong. That's what I was told. So, and we have one, if they work together in conjunction with getting more money, the two biggest areas that are gonna, if we get more money from the government for the community file, it's gonna go to the city and from the two biggest spots where I'm out in Frederick. Because that's where a lot of it is. So I'm not sure if by doing this, we're cutting off our nose to spite our face. That's point blank and a little bit of a turf war, which should never happen. That's just my personal opinion. I'm always up front and honest with everybody. So.
Just a moment.
Just a quick question.
I thought we discussed this last time, and when we reduced these things, we ended up paying more and getting less services.
So for this particular one, we can say there's, go ahead.
Yes, when you combine amendment 2, which was subsequently withdrawn tonight, and amendment 3, you were going to pay more for less services. Now that we're just considering part of amendment 3, you'll actually have a reduction in your member charges.
Okay.
And
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With respect to the amount of work that will be done and monies from the government, we are eligible through social development. There is funding that is specifically identified for regional service commissions in this area. And I believe the notional amount that we're talking about at this point in time is $95,000. This motion would not preclude us from still getting that and being able to do things. So, but of course, it is subject to to social development's approval. We're reasonably confident that we can put together a plan that will interest them enough that they will fund that.
Good with it then.
yes,
Yeah, would they still fund it if we left the money in there? Is there still a possibility of getting that grant? If we didn't take the 90,000 or whatever, we could still go for extra additional funding?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not certain. I'm not comfortable speculating about that. My knowledge of that is secondhand. CEO Smith has had the firsthand conversations with social development. But I believe that, as I understand it, the quality of the proposal that we put to them will be the determinant. And, with $25,000, that's some seed money that we can use to try and lever that around $95,000. So we've had discussions internally about, will we be able to be active? We won't perhaps be able to do all that we had targeted for this year, but we won't abandon community development or the social file as a result of this cut.
I have one other question on that potential. You're talking 95,000. it'll help a little bit, it's not gonna help a whole lot. How much money is there available to get? If the proposal, people working together and do a proper proposal, bring it to the government in the right way, how much money is there accessible that they're gonna, because the government wants, that's one of the clean up that aspect. So if it's done right and we work at it hard, chances are we're gonna get a lot more money.
Mr. Chair, we're facing a little bit of uncertainty with respect to what money will be there. We have a change in government, a change in focus that is more heavily weighted on this area. I wouldn't want to speculate on what may or may not be available to us. I do know that this particular grant program that social development has matches out for our region at $95,000.
Okay.
One of the things that our chief executive officer has demonstrated in the last 2 years is the ability to find money, so I'm confident that he'll find some.
Yes, okay, thank you.
That's right.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, the rationale behind reducing the budget by $90,000 was to, was the reduction was for the position, that the position be reduced. And while I agree with and appreciate removing the first part of the motion, I feel it becomes a bit clearer. So I just wanted to specify that that is the intent of that motion, that the reduction be specifically related to the position itself, as opposed to just general activities and community development. And is that how that is being understood by staff?
If I might, Mr. Chair, the board does not have the authority to determine or approve staff positions. That authority is the exclusive domain of the chief executive officer, and that's outlined in section 14.1 of the Regional Services Delivery Act. The mechanism that the board has with respect to that is approving money and approving amounts, but they cannot approve complement FTE. That's a specific provision in the Regional Service Delivery Act that has no counterpart in the Local Governance Act. So it's unique to regional service commissions.
Well,
And I would add that, you know, we've heard from Mary Kay that to get the savings, it would impact the position that would impact is that governance position. Just clarify that.
and I'll just say for the record, that is the intent of the reduction. The amending motion, the intent of the reduction is to cover off the position, and I think a case in point, we had a really great example here. Yep, we're not gonna have this position, but there's a pot of money that we can now access to maybe get funding to put towards that position. And I think that was that's sort of what I was looking for here. Let's be creative. If there's extra work to be done, are there pots of money that are out there that we can access as opposed to putting that on our own municipalities and our own taxpayers? And I think we're now hearing, maybe we're gonna be a little creative. If we reduce 90,000, maybe it's possible that the provincial government has funding available so that we can carry out this work. So I feel that supporting this motion moves us in the direction of how it is that we can be more efficient in our services, in our expenditures by accessing other monies. And I know that that's how all of our municipalities work. And I want us to be carrying that spirit here at the Regional Service Commission, because it's the same taxpayers that are funding this organization. So if there's provincial money out there that we can access, so that we don't need to use our own taxpayers' money, why wouldn't we do that?
Any other questions? With that, I'll move to
Director Rogers,
Yes.
Director Falconer,
Yes.
Director Nicollet,
Yes.
Director Morrison,
Yes.
Director Corey,
Yes.
Director Fox,
Yes.
Director Sweeney,
Yes.
Director Wilson She,
Yes.
Director Powell,
Yes.
Director Hayward,
Yes.
Director Maury,
Yes.
Director Pleva,
yes.
Director Forsyth,
Yes.
Director Duplessis.
Yes.
We don't have to tally that one, right? Okay, moving on to the final amending motion. Director Rogers?
Be it resolved that the board reallocates expenses for the trail connectivity to those communities that need support, so that only communities that require initial support are funding the service.
Okay, now I'm gonna move this one out of order contrary to, section 16 of the legislative act of governance.
Can I challenge that? Mr. Chair?
Yes, you may. Maybe we can bring the act up.
Yes,
Sure.
yes.
Anybody wants to read it? But we're.
There's no,
No,
Mr. Chair, there's no debate on a point of order challenge. The section of the act will be there for you to review. We'll give you a moment to have a look at it, and then the chair will call the question.
I was just trying to beat people to the punches and having the act out. Because I could not quote. And section 16.
Is it possible to share the screen?
At the end of this, we'll be voting on the challenge.
Yes.
Which,
Yeah.
So I think the easiest way to get it, Kelly, would be to go through our website and go to the Regional Service Delivery Act and haul that up. Sorry, the regulation.
Doesn't everybody have this memorized?
Not that.
Get your act together.
Wow.
Section 16.
right,
That was so 2 motions ago.
What the directors will notice there is that the provincial government has prescribed the method with which costs are shared for common services.
Okay, I'm gonna call for,
Where'd it go?
no, this is for. Oh, yeah, bring it back up. We're not gonna hide it quickly.
Share the screen.
Oh, sorry.
Can I ask a question? I'm not challenging, or I'm not trying to do anything, except just clarity. I guess I'm confused. So infrastructure is not a mandated service though. This is infrastructure, and that's not a mandated service.
Recreation, which is mandated.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recreation, cultural infrastructure is a mandated service under the act.
So we're interpreting trails as recreational infrastructure.
We'll do the same thing. Right, do you call this one? Do you call this?
This is straight around. All in favor, all against.
Everybody have time to read?
More down.
In favor of the appeal of my ruling this as out of order.
So a yay is a nay.
Exactly. If you say yay to the appeal, it means you consider it is in order and it's not contrary to the act. If you say nay, you agree that is, as for my ruling is that it is in contrary to the act.
Okay. Oh, what? Oh, wait, I'm confused now.
Did I say that? So, go ahead.
So, the challenge is to the chair's ruling. A yes vote supports the chair's ruling, a no vote opposes the chair's ruling.
Okay, let's adopt some.
I got
Yes, it
an-
is.
Oh, I got an opposite.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, so strike me.
So yes, vote is the motion is that void.
No, a yes votes, yes, it supports the chair.
Okay.
Okay, with that clear. After my
Just like mine.
unclarity, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
oh, out of order, right? Okay.
Motion is out of order.
It's out of order.
We want to do accountants.
I know, count. Okay, all those against? Okay. It is out of order.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on. To the meat of the matter. We have motions.
No, we have motion A.
A.
It is now time to call the question and debate your new budget motion, which I believe Kelly has, or. Yeah, then you can bring up the slide, Mary Kay's slides.
This one, this one.
Kelly.
It's on technical delay. There we go.
So the motion on the screen now is the budget motion before you. Resolved that the board approve a total operating budget for the 2025 calendar year consisting of total revenue of $21,003,934. Total expenses of $21,003,934. And then the capital, the budget consists of total expenditures of $654. 664,000, thank you.
So as it was before, minus 170,000.
Right.
So I need someone to read that motion, or since we've already read it, we're voting on it.
Right, the motion has been amended. It's already been moved. The amendment has been seconded. And so this is the motion that is before you now. And now you can debate this question.
Comments? In the absence of comments, let's call for a
Oh,
vote.
no, wait,
Okay, sorry.
I'm still reading.
Oh, okay.
You are fast, Mr. Chair. Okay, and I'm just clarifying, this is the budgeted amounts minus the, with the amending, I'm looking at the amendment.
170,000.
Okay, so I have a couple of comments.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I guess I would just like to, I think maybe I'll ask the question first. I see there's PR monies in the budget. And I'm just in a few different places, and I'm just sort of wondering if that can be explained, what public relations funding would be used for. I certainly understand it in the case of landfill, like certain of the services that we would deliver. But I'm curious as to what other things that we would require. It's a substantial amount. I think it's a little over 400. I'm just wondering what else we would require PR money for as a regional service commission, given that all of our member communities do public relations with our own citizens, with our own residents. I'm wondering what it is that the Regional Service Commission needs to be promoting. Because to me, it's a body that brings us together for to share services. So it's just a question and then I have comments.
So, Mr. Chair, I wonder if Director Rogers could be more specific. Different funds have different amounts of public relations money, and it varies by fund. And so we're happy to respond in the specific, but in the aggregate, it's very difficult.
So can you though, in general? Other than landfill, and whenever there would be a regional serve, whenever there would be promotional or PR money, what just in general, what would it be? What would be the purpose for needing to? Maybe that's the better.
Mr. Chair, no, I can't be. If we look at a particular fund, Mary Kay can speak to it, but it varies from fund to fund. So it defies general. And so we need more specific
Okay, so I can
questions.
one community development. Yeah, that's the first one that I would conduct.
Yeah, so with the Mr. Chair, with the amendment, there is no longer any public relations money in the community development budget.
Oh. was not aware that that's where the money was, that's already been determined, that that's where the money would be taken, is from the public relations. The motion was just made.
Well, when, I believe when you spoke, Mary Kay, we mentioned the governance position would be eliminated and everything else would be reduced to only 25,000.
Yes, so in community development, we originally had 40,000 and 75,000
Yes.
to do social file. We've eliminated the 40,000 for public relations, so we are not doing that.
Administration, public relations, 20,000, and administration. Just what public relations are required in administration?
Services. So in corporate services, we've never had a public relations budget, so this was the first year of really establishing. In the past couple of years, the province has provided funding to allow us to get our name out, to educate, so we'll probably see sometimes on bus stops, we had some public relations or some billboards as well, just to kind of educate people, let them know what we are doing. So that the public is aware that the Capital Region Service Commission exists and what kind of services they can expect to receive from us.
So other than landfill, which I understand is a direct service, so sorry, Ms. through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, no, no, that's
I can't. Other than landfill, which is a service that is delivered directly to the public, I'm curious as to what services, I guess, for the 30% of the communities that you use the planning services, maybe that would be a service that's promoted. I'm just wondering why we're promoting the Regional Service Commission as an entity. I think it's maybe as I looked through closer, as I was scrutinizing closer, that came to my mind. I thought I'm not quite certain, is our municipalities, each of us as municipalities, we have the direct relationship with our residents. We need to be promoting our services. We need to be communicating to our residents. I don't know why the Regional Service Commission sees it needs to have that role with the public, except in the case of, I was thinking landfill, but I can certainly appreciate those who do planning would also require that, but then that would come out of the planning budget.
I would make one comment that, there's a number of services, mandated services that are now offered to the Regional Service Commission, of which we are members, that they're doing on our behalf, that this budget is going against, right? And without communication and public relations, to educate the public on that is very difficult. These aren't services that we're, for number of our communities that we are not doing ourselves. I would just make that comment. Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, no, the public relations budget for corporate services does not include land use planning. We've addressed this a number of times, but I'd like to emphasize that the land use planning budget, it encapsulates all of the activities. There's no money flowing from other funds into land use planning. We do deliver direct services to the public through the landfill. We also deliver direct services in tourism. We deliver direct services in economic development, and that money is accounted there. We do have a profile that we wish to develop. We wish the public to understand who the Regional Service Commission is, and that's the purpose of the budgeted amount, and it is designed for brand awareness.
So I guess that's my point. I think it's communities that should be. So yes, the region has taken on the mandated service. I'll use tourism because you suggested tourism, has taken on the mandated service of ensuring that all the communities are contributing so that tourism is delivered in a regional way. But it's the municipalities themselves that are making those contributions. And I don't want to speak for like Hanwell, but I'm assuming when there's an event in Hanwell wants the credit for that event. You don't necessarily, it's Hanwell where that event is taking place. It's not the Capital Region Service Commission, or I could go to Harvey or Natwick or any of the other places. I just want to make sure as we're providing funding in public relations for the Regional Service Commission, I still don't see it as being the Regional Service Commission that should be promoting these services. They should be doing it's the communities. We don't want to lose the profile of our communities in this regionalization. And I think when we put too much money into promotions for the Regional Service Commission, my fear is that maybe some of the individual communities are going to lose their identity through that. So that was a fear. A little bit, every organization needs to have public relations monies, but when you add it all up, it then just hit me. I'm not so sure we want everybody out there thinking that the Regional Service Commission is here delivering on all this stuff. It's still our communities that are funding it. We're paying for it. It's just being done. All the Regional Service Commission is doing is ensure that we're working together as a region to deliver it. That's the Regional Service Commission. We're working together to deliver, but it's still our individual communities that are paying for the service. So that was why I asked the question.
There's lots of stuff that happens in the outlying areas that's done by the Regional Service Commission, whether it's getting, building permits and everything for out in the rural areas that don't have their to go in and pay your bills. Or we're going to be coming into recycling here very shortly, and that big change, and that's gonna have to be told to people what's happening with there. So it all comes back, but we can't take line pick every line on the budget. That was supposed to be done a month ago. And our staff has done a great job of bringing us a budget, which is costing us less money than it did last year. And we're going by line, by line, by line. To me, that is not right. We have one employee, it's the CEO. The rest of the staff works for him. And they have to provide the service to every other community that's here in one group. If we're worrying about PR, are we gonna go next, how many garbage bags we use in administration? To me, the staff budget come to us over a month ago. And we have a motion here to pass the budget, which they prepared and prepared very well because we're paying less money, everybody. So I think that's out of order. That's my opinion, but I could be wrong.
Next word.
When I speak to the public or council about the relationship that we have with the Capital Region Service Commission, and I speak about pros and I speak about business development, speak about the planning, talk about that's our staff. You have 750 employees. I have 1 + 2 part-time. So it's different. But to be able to pick up the phone or tell someone if you want to, you can call the Fredericton Tourism and they'll help you. Because we're paying for that through the Capital Region Service Commission. And or you can call someone at the Capital Region Service Commission and they will help you with that. So it's a big benefit to us. We could not provide that service at the level that is being provided to us on our own. It's just, for me, it's much different.
And I would add for myself, in my community, when we see the Regional Service Commission's line item in our budget, it's not clandestine as to what they're doing. We're very clear amongst ourselves as to the services they're offering that we are paying for. And I look at PR as being promotion of those services because they are like our extension, service provider. So that's the way I look at it. And I would say our populace in Arcadia, if we're not promoting it, they won't know about it. Or have more difficulty. Go ahead.
So yeah, so I guess for me, therein lies the confusion. I think so and maybe this, I raised it, I think it's an important point. I guess it's up for debate whether or not is it an actual budget discussion, but where it's a budget line item, I think it's fair game to talk about it during a budget discussion. But I do believe that it's money that's being spent to promote an entity that maybe does deliver more services for some municipalities than others. But again, I would say it's an entity that was created to support our municipalities to deliver these services. It's not to have its own identity. We are the identity. Our 14 communities have been elected by people. Our named municipalities or rural community, rural district, that's the identity that should be out there. I'm not so sure it should be necessarily the Regional Service Commission. So that was the point I was making. It was not suggesting that the services that are delivered aren't critical to some communities. I understand it. I'm just saying, do we need to be talking about it with the public? Do we want to be promoting a bureaucratic office to the public, or do we want to be promoting our own communities? So that was why I questioned this amount. I have another issue, and I guess it also aligns nicely with the comments.
I just pop for 1 second.
Okay.
I do have some concern with calling it a bureaucratic office. This is a service delivery office for us. I mean, for my community.
Sure, it is. It's a service delivery office, no doubt about it, but it's not an elected body. It's not an order of government, such as all of our governments are orders of government. We're elected.
Correct.
I guess that's my point. Maybe point well taken. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bureaucratic's not, but it is not an order of government. So, and as for the budget's costing us less, it's a 16% increase over last year. This budget, it's 16% over last year. City governments, our budget's probably gone up by about 5%, and it kills me. I find 16% high. I know that everybody comforts ourselves because of the RSSF. That comes to an end in 2027, and that makes me nervous. That makes the city of Fredericton nervous. A 16% increase in budget is huge. It's just, I just worry about it. So I feel this is timely to be mentioning it as we're having this budget discussion. I tried to rationalize it and say, okay, or I see that. I've been part of city council twice when we've lost our equalization grant. The government will pull money when it determines it needs to be allotted elsewhere. And I'm just nervous that we're growing the budget to an extent that we then won't be able to cover if that money is pulled. So that's my last comment.
Don't you have
Just a point of clarity, the Regional Service Support Fund does not end in 2028. It is up for review in 2028, and that's a difference.
Any other comments on the table before we go to the vote?
I have one comment.
Yes, go ahead.
The Service Commission, as far as I'm concerned, I'm very pleased with what I see and what I've been involved in. I've been working a fair amount with tourism in the last while, especially with the paddle, I think you have as well. And with Rose and Peter. And I wouldn't know for sure, I would not get the results from the communications that I have been having if it wasn't for CRSC. So I really comment that my community knows that, because I'm very active in my community, and they know that I can't do this stuff on my own. There's no way I could promote it on my own. We are getting great promotion, and we are going to see big things happen, I believe, within the next year or so. In our areas, well, not those too, and surrounding areas. So, yeah. So I want to put heads up for RSC 11, which I've been here since the beginning. Just doing good. Thank you.
I just want to thank Mary Kay and the department and the CEO and Dawn for drafting and putting a great budget together.
I second it. Which I can't do because it's not. With that, I'm going to call for the vote. And we have to go through the name and number here.
Director Nicklin.
We're voting on the budget now?
Yes. As on here.
Yeah.
Director Morrison.
Yes.
Director Falconer.
Yes.
Director Corey.
Yes.
Director Fox.
Yes.
Director Wilson Sheet,
Yes.
Director Sweeney,
Yes.
Director Powell,
Yes.
Director Hayward,
Yes.
Director Maury,
Yes.
Director Rogers,
No.
Director Duplessis,
Yes.
Director Pleadwell,
Yes.
Director Forsyth.
Yes.
Motion is passed. And the budget.
I could breathe.
So with that, we shall move to item number 5B. And I believe I'm to the finance committee to make that motion.
Finance committee would be appropriate. I can do that. I move that the Capital Region Service Commission submit to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board an application for authorization to borrow for capital expense in accordance with the 2025 budget for the following term and amount. Environmental Health Services, equipment purchase, amount $410,000, term 5 years.
Second
Second that.
now.
Bob Val, any questions? No questions, all those in favor? Motion carried.
Motions and C.
Yes.
I move that the Capital Region Service Commission submit to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board an application for authorization to borrow money in accordance with the 2025 budget in the amount not to exceed $60,000 for a lease with a term of up to 5 years.
Seconded, David Duplessis.
Questions?
Oh, listen,
Say that again.
what is it that you're leasing?
Okay, go ahead.
That would be the lease of a crew cab.
Thank you. I just want to know. Letting him go that well. Without nothing there, he could have been a.
He didn't say whether he formally showed it. Any other questions? All those in favor? Against? Motion carried. Now moving on to item number 6, I would ask the board at this time, the heavy night for budgets. Is there any will to defer this to another evening?
It's on here, can we not deal with
We
them?
can absolutely. do it.
I recommend we deal with them.
I do too.
All good?
Get it over with.
Okay. Motion.
It's Director Rogers' motion, Mr. Chair.
Be it resolved that the board directs the CRSC staff to conduct a duplication analysis of social inclusion and community development staffing, including City of Fredericton Office of Social Inclusion, Greater Fredericton Social Inclusion GFSI, and current CRSC staff to identify possible budgetary reductions.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second it, Judy Wilson, she,
Questions? Go ahead, Director Corey.
it's good.
Why would the Capital Region Service Commission pay for a duplication analysis for the city of Fredericton? I'm not, I mean, it doesn't, I just don't understand what's going on there. We don't have the money in the budget for duplication analysis. We took money out of the budget tonight, and now this motion after the budget is passed is saying spend more money on an analysis of social inclusion. And it only affects city of Fredericton. So, and whatever the capital region is doing, I guess. But I can give you a quick audit of the social inclusion expenditure in Harvey rural community. So, that can be audited, but I just don't understand this.
Yeah, I can provide clarity. This doesn't this doesn't speak to asking the city of Fredericton isn't asking for anything. We're clearly suggesting that the work of community development, a lot of the work that's being undertaken, including the 5 objectives, are things that are already being done in the larger community. Greater Fredericton Social Innovation, which includes much of the region, only except for a couple of communities, and they've agreed. I mean, they met with John and John. They agreed that they could extend boundaries. I think the idea is a lot of community development work that the CRSC is saying it's going to undertake is work that's already being done in communities. So when we said do the duplication analysis, it wasn't hiring anyone or paying anyone to do it. It's actually using the staff that currently exists here to actually do an analysis of what's being delivered in community and making sure that the Regional Service Commission doesn't duplicate it. Like if Greater Fredericton Social Innovation is doing some of this work, like the volunteer, I think it was a networking breakfast was one of the things, doing volunteer stuff, connecting volunteers. All that work has already been done by GFSI. They're saying they could slightly extend their boundaries to make sure it covers the entire region. They would do that work as opposed to the Capital Region Service Commission needing to do that work. So the duplication analysis is looking and making sure before we spend any money as a regional service commission, we make sure the work's not already being done out there. That's what that's the intention of it.
Wouldn't you kick that on anyway, prior to spending money or prior to putting a plan together? You would look at duplication of services. Obviously, you wouldn't do the same service that's already being handled. My missing?
Well, some of the things that are being suggested have already been done, and I've raised that and made that point, but it hasn't.
At a committee level or at the board level? So at a committee level, it doesn't matter.
In the
It's just a
community,
level.
the work's already happening.
I would just add that, this is, I expect related to a mandated service we're being asked to perform at the Regional Service Commission level on community development. So, would you have anything to add?
No, Mr. Chair, I think the motion has plain on its face, it stands by itself, and if it passes, staff will take the direction.
I do have a question. Who is the Greater Fredericton Social Inclusion Network, I guess, and who funds them? Because I don't know. So if they're in my community working, somehow I'm missing.
I don't know.
Okay, so do you want me to
Yes,
respond?
please.
Mr. Chair?
Please.
So they're not a Fredericton body, they're not a Fredericton organization, they're simply they're a nonprofit organization. My understanding, and this is just from my previous work in community, and Dawn may also be able to add to this. My understanding is they were created as part of the community inclusion networks that were established by the Economic Social Inclusion Corporation. Community inclusion networks. There were there 12, I think, SINs, community inclusion networks across the province. And Suzanne would have worked for a community inclusion network. She was housed at the Greater Fredericton Social Innovation. The Social Inclusion, sorry, that's the innovation. The Greater Fredericton Social Inclusion Organization. That was the group that was established to house her work. So it was always done it was a SIN, it was one of the SINs, like a community inclusion network, based on the old 12 community model, which is now not even a model that's used. But its boundaries are not the same as the Regional Service Commission boundaries, but they're close, and they're saying they could extend their boundaries to cover the whole region. So they're not a Fredericton, and they're not a Fredericton.
Where do they cover now?
Mr. Chair,
I think we're getting to analysis.
yeah, so the boundaries are somewhat elastic. I've had great discussions with GFSI. They are one of the finalists in what's the federal government is calling an intersectoral grant, where they will be doing work on the social determinants of health. And they had previously mirrored Health Region 3's boundaries, which is much greater than ours. They are amending their application to have the same boundaries as the Capital Region Service Commission. I think there's a great opportunity for collaboration and cooperation between the Service Commission and GFSI. I guess from a point of view, the Community Inclusion Network, we are the Community Inclusion Network now, and that was part of local government reform. So there's no separate Community Inclusion Network. We are it in this region. In terms of how I would describe GFSI, it is there are a number of founders, socially aware and active individuals who founded the organization. It provides a wide range of support to, I'll call it, social enterprises and nonprofit groups in the region. It is a registered charity. You can donate to it and get a tax refund. They have made a presentation to our Community Development Committee. We'd be happy to bring it to the board if the board wishes to drill down a little more with respect to that. It's quite a flexible and quite a nimble organization, and one that we're lucky to have it in this area, and I'm looking forward to it, melding a little more closely with our boundaries.
I like the fact that we're gonna work together. I kind of think that's neat. We have a community thing, so if everybody's working together and get something done, it's not a bad thing. It shouldn't cost a whole lot of money. I mean, you're just working, most of them are volunteers. And if we have staff working together, but I don't like the motion where it says direct to the CRC to do this. I mean, I would think that we should be doing that anyways. If we have a committee for a community, we should be working together with all people that are involved with making it better. I mean, it just, that makes sense, I think.
I think the motion is, like, it seems to be fair. I mean, we're just asking the Service Commission to look at this, and I don't think there's a tremendous cost. And I think if we can save duplication and whatnot, I think it's a pretty decent plan. Like, I have no problem supporting the motions.
Just want to point out that the motion does read, be it resolved that the board directs Capital Region Service Commission staff, which we can't.
We direct the
We can
CA.
direct the CAO.
That's our staff.
And to conduct a duplication analysis of social inclusion. If it can be done easily, then it's fine. Yeah. But I just don't.
Any other questions? Nope, that I'm gonna. Oh, yeah.
I would just draw the board's attention to the fact that this motion relates to the provision of a common service. And as a result, the voting mechanism that you'll use on this question will be the weighted voting system. And we require a straight majority of the 21 votes present to pass the motion.
So to your point, we can't direct staff, so do you not have to amend that motion?
Well, I would say, can we interpret, is there an interpretation of CR staff from a board level as the CAO?
I think that's well, known. From firsthand conversations with the CAO, I know that he is prepared to direct his staff to undertake this.
Go ahead.
The CEO is our staff.
Yes.
We only have one.
Yes.
And he is our staff.
Yeah.
Okay, good point.
Just a comment on the motion. I think it goes without saying that the CRS, the Service Commission wouldn't be duplicating services anyway. I'm sure they'd look at services something they're going to do if it was already being done. Common sense, they wouldn't be doing it also. So I think it's kind of a little far-fetched. You have to direct staff to do an analysis. They should do what they would say, regardless. Just to comment.
Any other comments? Now, any other comments or questions? I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Or, oh, we have to do the name and number thing again, that's right.
Well, where we have different levels of voting, I think it would be wise.
Director Forsyth.
Possible, I usually like to be last.
I like this.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Director Duplessis,
Yes.
Director Rogers. Yes. Director Falconer,
Yes.
Director Pleadwell,
Yes,
Director Nicklin,
Yes.
Director Morrison,
No,
Director Corey,
No.
Director Fox,
Yes.
Director Sweeney,
No.
Director Wilson Sheep,
Yes.
Director Powell,
No.
Director Hayward,
No.
Director Marty.
motion's passed. Motion's passed. I was not doing good mental math. Okay, with that, can I motion for adjournment? Oh, I heard this fast. Okay, do we have that for the record? All those in favor? Anyone?
Why does it make you?
A lot heavily weighted on this side of the table. I'm like,
I had my.